Good evening, I'm Lori Hawkins, and on behalf of the Kenosha County Democratic Party's executive team, I'd like to welcome you to tonight's Representative Bryan Steil's empty suit town hall. Please note that Representative Steil was invited to attend this evening, and we timed it for now because we were told by Representative Pocan, his colleague, that this would be a good time because they're on recess, and that he could be in the district. We sent an invitation via certified mail to each of his 7 offices around the district and in Washington, D.C., and we did not receive a reply. We realized the chance of his attendance was slim, but not only because his town halls have carefully vetted questions and questioners ahead of time, but also because the KCDP is a partisan entity, and we realize that. But don't get me wrong, he's not opposed to all partisan events or showing up for them. He is in fact attending in-person rallies around the district for conservative state Supreme Court candidate Brad Schimmel. And voucher school supporting state superintendent candidate Brittany Kinzer. By the way, one of these rallies will be at Parkway Chateau, out by the Broad Stop, on March 27th. If you plan to attend outside and protest, please be peaceful and be sure to stay on public property because we know from experience that you get arrested otherwise. Representative Steil did have one listening session in Kenosha County in January. Those who attended noted to us that they were the ones who had to listen. Maybe he doesn't understand the procedures. And they were not given the opportunity to speak. And the questions that were asked were softballs for Steil. His telephone town halls are much of the same and not in any way what constituents like you need and deserve, which is the opportunity to tell Bryan Steil that his votes in Congress do not represent us. That voting for billionaires to have tax cuts rather than fighting for working people is not what Wisconsin wants. That voting to prohibit students from sports participation if they are trans is cruel. That voting to censure Representative Al Green for protesting Medicaid cuts, a waste of time and stupid. That voting for a Born Alive abortion survivors protection bill is what? That is not a thing. It's virtue signaling to his Trump base, which is what Bryan Steil does and which is why his presence here is demonstrated as an empty suit. So tonight is your opportunity to tell Representative Steil's suit what is on your mind. To make the most of everyone's time, here's the format. I'm going to be quiet in a minute. If you wish to speak, please come to one of the microphones. We'll turn this one around. You will have 90 seconds to express yourself in a respectful manner. This is a family-friendly event. There are children here. Just keep that in mind. Speakers will address the suit, not those in attendance. If your statement or question can benefit from a state legislative context check or a brief additional info dive, we are grateful to have our very own State Senator Bob Wirch on here. I wanted to tell you that Representatives Chip McGuire and Bendy Smith send their regrets as they were on the assembly floor today. If you would like to write down your statement or question, we have note cards and pens for you. If you wanted to have something to read off of, where are the note cards? They're over here, right? Cards, hold them up. We might share some of these, but we would take your name off. So just know that, these are going to be some good things. If you would like your statement to go to Representative Steil after tonight, you can write it on a postcard, drop it into our very patriotic box near the door. Okay, and in just a second, we are going to have Sheila Rod come up and tell you a little bit about her postcards. And we are going to be recording this event. If you are just I don't want to be recorded, just when you come up, do one of these, and we'll be respectful of that. And finally, vote for our candidates on the April 1st ballot that support your values, including in maintaining and improving upon our systems so that they serve all of us. There's no illusions that we had a perfect society before Trump, right? But we need to move in the right direction. These are Judge Susan Crawford to maintain a pro-democracy balance on our state Supreme Court and for Dr. Jill Underly for Superintendent of Public Instruction to provide the guardrails that protect public education at a time when our federal government is failing us with that. Vote all the way down the ballot for school board and municipal board candidates who share your values. Thank you again. A couple words from Sheila, and then we're going to get this baby rolling.
Hello, my name is Sheila Ron, and I am a concerned citizen, and I'm also a mental health professional. In my opinion, this is not only a constitutional crisis, it is a mental health crisis. There is so much anxiety just in the air about the things that have already happened and the things that could happen, and they are flooding the zone. And it is a tsunami. But if each of us grabs a sponge, we can mop this up. This is the sponge that I had printed for us. So it's a postcard that has his address on it in his DC office, and it's got a place for you to write your name and address. If you don't have your name and address, then they legally can just ignore you. They will still ignore you, but we're adding sponges. But there'll be a record of it. And then on the front it says, what's my one issue? And then on the back there's room for you to write why this issue, or how are you or people you love impacted, and what expertise do you have on it, and what do you want Rep. Steil to do? I am encouraging you, what I have done as a concerned citizen and a mental health expert is to recognize I can't think about all of it or it will break me, which is their goal. So I have adopted one issue. That's what I'm responsible for, and I call his office every single day. I leave voicemails on weekends. You can put his number in your phone, and then in your car, you just say, call Bryan Steil, and then you call. That's what I do.
Call Ron Johnson.
I call him too. Ron Johnson's voicemail is full more often, and you have to press 1 before you get to talk to someone, so you gotta wait for a red light. It's more annoying. But I said I only got a little bit of time. So, this is what I'm gonna ask you to do. If you are comfortable, so that you are taking some power that you have, because there's just so much anxiety, and when you do something, it starts to lower the anxiety. To take one of these sponges today and fill it out before you leave. Pick, I know there are 1,000 things, but pick one thing. It can be literally anything. The first one that pops in your head, and write it, and then I'm asking you to hand it back to me so that I can hand deliver them on Tuesday when I go to his pop-up office at the county office. I'm there every Tuesday from 10 to noon if you want to hang out. And I want you to take one with, if there's enough, I want you to take one with you and take it home and think about what your issue that you're going to adopt is. Because in this together, we can each grab a sponge and we can start doing something about this flooding of the zone, and we can do something about the mental health crisis we're all experiencing.
Thank you, Sheila. I love how many people have been grasping this idea of like one thing. Another thing that you can do is take a peek at our QR code with your phone. And what we've done there, what Jody did, is put together a list of things that you can do. There's all kinds of actions on there to help you with your one thing, because you got to maintain your mental health and you can't check out. Question?
No, I want to share something. So you never get through Ron Johnson's DC office, so I call his Madison office.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Call Ron Johnson's Madison and local offices. Thank you. Okay. Without further ado, you could start lining up and take your 90 seconds. We are going to be letting you know when you're running out of time. Yeah, thank you for being here. Really excited to have you and have this opportunity to just kind of get it off your chest. Thank you.
You're ready to send me stuff.
Why are you and your spineless colleagues worried about being primaried by Musk or anyone else who drank Trump's Kool-Aid? Who do you think is going to vote for you or any Republican after your betrayal of your oath to the Constitution? You have demolished the future for our children and grandchildren. That is your legacy.
Forget one thing. Please give your name and municipality when you speak. So sorry. I know you were a guinea pig.
My name is Linda Schlichting. I live in Paddock Lake. Hi, Bryan Steil. My name is Gwen Furman. I live in Kenosha, and you already know me pretty well because I'm bothering your PC office all the time. But I came here with receipts so that you and everyone else can see how you've been lying to me since February 7th about the proposed cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. On February 7th, your response to me when I expressed concerns about the OPM memo was to say that programs such as Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, Head Start, rental assistance, and veterans benefits would not be affected. But I know that that's not true. People are being fired from the VA. Community clinics are already experiencing funding cuts. Head Starts have been, the portal was closed and they couldn't get their tuition money. Then on February 12th, you told me that you understood my concerns regarding DOGE, but that you would fully support programs such as Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and would continue your work in Congress to ensure these programs remain solvent and fully funded for future generations. But what did you do? You voted for the budget resolution that expects you to cut $8 billion, I believe it is, from Medicaid. 800 billion, thank you for the correction. 800 billion, and then you sent me this newsletter promising again that you weren't going to cut anything, but you said it would be an opportunity for people with disabilities to work. That's what those cuts would do. How dare you say that to me? And then how dare you send me a letter bragging about how you care about disabled people in our district while you're cutting the programs that allow them to work and have medical care and be part of their community. Shame on you!
Thank you, Mr. Stiles, for appearing before us. My name is Laverne Jarris. I'm a member but not speaking on behalf of the Wisconsin Long-Term Care Advisory Council. I'm speaking to oppose cuts to Medicaid and to the access to Social Security. When I called your office a few weeks ago, your aide said that you were in support of Medicaid, but your vote in favor of the budget resolution says the opposite. As I understand it, the budget resolution instructs the House Energy and Commerce Committee to reduce the federal deficit by $880 billion over 10 years. If Medicare is off the table, as they're saying now, then 93% of the non-Medicare spending in the E&C jurisdiction is from the federal share of Medicaid. So I don't see how you can say that Medicaid won't be cut. Then there is another $200 billion that comes from the Children's Health Insurance Program. Analysts agree that major cuts to Medicaid are the only way to meet the House's budget resolution requirements. There are many ways to hold the axe, but whatever ways you hack at Medicaid, people are going to die. 1 million Wisconsinites depend on Medicaid or Badger Care. 1 in 3 births in our state and 1 in 3 children are covered by the program. 1 in 3 people with disabilities, and over half of people in nursing homes use it for long-term care. It is the safety net for low and moderate income people to assure that that their parents or children with disabilities are cared for when their own assets run out. You should also know that Wisconsin has a shortage of direct care workers who will care for our loved ones or for us when we lose more workers to cuts in Medicaid rates for our providers. Congressman Steil, we need you to stand up for us, we the people, not the billionaires of this country. Thank you.
Congressman Steil, you're a legislator on the federal level, I'm a legislator on the state level. We both work for the taxpayers. I have at least one listening session every month. You don't do that. And I seem to remember you did a campaign commercial with your mother saying you would protect Social Security during the campaign.
Grandmother.
Well, now they're talking about cuts to Social Security, where in fact you won't get the service you need for Social Security, and a former head of Social Security said they might even have trouble getting the checks out in the future. Yet you did that commercial with your mother saying you would protect Social Security.
Grandmother.
Grandmother. Finally, shame on you and the other Republicans. You cut U.S. aid agency. Children are starving in third world countries. They can't get the medicine they need. Why? Because you wanted to protect tax cuts for Elon Musk and billionaires. Shame on you.
You can come and you can just get in line at the microphones and sure.
Marge Krug from Pleasant Prairie, and I wonder how you can vote to eliminate the debt ceiling for Trump in that first budget bill, but then you talk about veterans spending, oh no, the debt. You only talk about debt when Democrats are in charge. Shame on you. We all have to pay for the debt.
Hello, Congressman Steil. I'm Rosalie Villano from Pleasant Prairie. I have two things I'd like to talk about today. The first is the number 325 million people. That's how many people visited our national parks last year. The highest ever. And we have, over 10 years, cut that workforce by over 15%. What are we doing for our future when we don't have dedicated employees who care, who are passionate about the parks and protecting the parks? That's the first thing. And by the way, they bring in huge numbers of revenue to their local communities in the billions. It is devastating. I have a daughter who is a national park ranger, and these kids they're painted in a way that is so negative, but they're passionate and they care and they really want to do what's right for this country. Please support the national parks. The second is, I'd like to talk about for a moment the general costs of what is going on across many programs, education, Medicare, Medicaid, all these cuts. Where do we think this money is going to be going? We know that it will take trillions, with a T, of dollars to support the tax cuts that our administration would like to make permanent. Well, that's on the backs of the little people in this country. It's on my back, it's on your back. And for what? So that we can protect the upper half of 1% and make the cuts permanent for them? We need your help. The people of Wisconsin need your help. Please don't turn your back on us.
Representative Steil.
Let's try this now. Okay. Representative
Steil. My name is Nina Lewis. I live in Kenosha. I want to say this to you. I look at what is happening in D.C. I am exhausted. I am angry. I am worried. I am sick at heart. I am grieving the loss of lives, the loss of dreams. I have many friends in the queer community who are looking at what's going on and are wondering if they need to leave our country. And what I want to say to you, and what I want to say to them, I'm not going anywhere. I will be a speed bump in your road if I have to be, because this is not what my father and my brothers and my late husband put their lives and their health on the line for, what they gave up dreams for years for, to protect us and to serve us. This is not what they worked for. This is not what I am working for. This is not what my daughter deserves as her birthright. Representative Steil, get your act together and represent us.
Hello, Representative Bryan Steil. If your staff has done what I've told them to every single day, you will already know this. I have a cousin who is, at least for the next 10 days, a countrywide director for an NGO in Africa for 2 different countries. She has been serving internationally in aid organizations her whole adult life. And when the US aid funding got illegally cut and frozen, her organization not only didn't get future funding, but they didn't pay the contract. They didn't get paid for the work they had done in November and December and January. In February, you gave them a 3-month hole in their budget. And whether you think it should be this way or not, almost every single international humanitarian aid organization doing anything to save lives has a significant portion of its budget from US aid. You are personally creating the largest humanitarian crisis that ever didn't need to be made. And you're lying to me about it. Oh, my phone went quiet. Because on February 12th, you sent me a letter. Thank you. That's the only time you've done that. And in it, you said, and I quote, "As you may know, on February 4th, 2025, the Treasury Department certified and suspended my phone is being weird, but basically, it said the administration has assured them that the humanitarian aid is still going, Bryan, but it's not. So I have asked your staff roughly daily, who is lying to me? Is it the administration lying to you? Are you lying to me because it isn't my cousin? And I've tried to be nice. I said maybe I'm a whistleblower, maybe you didn't know, but I call every single day, so you must know by now.
Does anyone need pens? Because I do want to leave with postcards.
Hello, my name is Russ Hahn from Kenosha. I'd like to address Representative Bryan Steil. The most recent budget bill that you passed, that your House leadership promoted, was one of the most irresponsible one of all time, in that it didn't provide the necessary instructions in terms of funding, and therefore gave carte blanche to Trump and to Elon Musk to make dramatic changes that have killed millions of people. As was just noted, the cuts in aid, the USAID programs alone in Africa may result in the deaths of over 3 million people alone in just the next year. We're talking about deaths close to the level of the Holocaust. I'm not too surprised that you're not that interested in providing any oversight over that. After all, for years, going back several election cycles, You've run some of the most profoundly racist advertising targeting immigrants. So I'm not surprised that you're not bringing any action against what Trump is doing. Their attacks against not just undocumented immigrants, but immigrants who have green cards, and threatening to deport naturalized citizens from this country for doing no more than criticizing the policies of Donald Trump. It seems incomprehensible each day how much worse the crisis of civil rights diminution in this country is getting. We need to stand up and fight, and you're not doing that. So if you don't, we will. Thank you very much.
I would love to take a full stack of them. I don't think you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Well, while you're working on hers, then find over Carol.
No, she's good.
There you go.
Congressman Stiles, I believe that you took an oath of office. When you took your oath of office, you promised and swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America.
Louder!
Go
try the other side.
Okay, go ahead, it's right there.
Hello. My name is Carol McIntyre, and I live in Attic Lake as well. Representative Steil, I just want you to do your job. You are elected representative. If you think that there are needs in our government to cut in various agencies and departments, whole departments and whole agencies, I would ask that you have the courage of those convictions and bring those conversations to the House floor, bring them to your committees, and have the courage of your vote. I want to know what you vote for, not to endorse Trump's agenda. I'd also like to ask what oversight you are having of Elon Musk and the Doge department and the young people that are looking at our private information. Thank you.
Julia Nowicki, Pleasant Prairie. Congressman Steil, when you were sworn in, you promised, you swore under oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And we all know that Trump has now been declared in violation of that Constitution many times. And if you want a list of all the things, all you have to do is read the paper every morning. There's a new one. And every time he does this, I think that you have to exercise, you and your cohorts in the Republican Party have to either propose a bill, take some action, do your job. And if you can't get a bill passed to prevent Trump from doing that, then how about articles of impeachment? But primarily, I echo the woman who just was speaking. Do something. You're all sitting there watching Trump and his buddy Musk take over the country. And it's your job to do what you were elected to. Thanks. I hope you'll do it.
Joe Debanowitz, I live in Summers. I've met you several times, Congressman. You've been kind and listening to whatever I rant at you. I generally talk to you about electric vehicles, and you have told me blank that you had no idea what the electric vehicle infrastructure plan is, and at least you're honest about it. But I'm here to talk to you about the Environmental Protection Agency. The EPA administrator, his name is Lee Zeldin, said this about his agency officials. They are driving a dagger straight into the hearts of the climate change religion in order to make it more affordable for people to buy cars, heat their homes, and run businesses. That's not good. His EPA would reduce CO2 emissions standards for coal plants and methane plants. He's lowering the standards for pollution. He's also undoing the standards for mercury and hazardous air toxins from power plants. Most of you may not know, but mercury pollution is one reason why people can't eat walleye in our Wisconsin waterways. So, he says, or the EPA administrator says, getting rid of these regulations would save $15 billion over 20 years. That's a little more than $1 billion a year. But, and also these regulations would have reduced greenhouse gases by 90% by 2039. That's in the Biden administration. The regulations, if kept under the Biden administration, would reduce greenhouse gases by 90% by 2039. The previous administration, under the current EPA, projected that they would save $270 billion in climate damages, hurricanes, tornadoes, etc., flooding, and $19 billion in health benefits, just like our previous speaker. And this is from the Lung Association. So, with the old regulations, we'd save $270 billion in climate damages and $19 billion in health benefits, but they're talking about saving $15 billion in 20 years? Doesn't make any sense. And the mission of the EPA is to protect public health and the environment, not reduce costs or unleash American energy. Now, do you agree that the mission of the EPA is to protect you and me? What are you going to do about it?
Polly Wara from Kenosha, and I'm glad to hear people talking about USAID. I did write to, I wrote to you, Bryan Steil, and you very nicely responded, telling me that the work of USAID really wasn't cut off. And that made me look up, and I wish I could remember the source, but it said 93% of the work of USAID was cut off. That leaves 7% that's still going. And I wonder if that's an indication of the amount of truth that you put into things.
Hi, Representative. My name is Roxanne Brown. I'm from Mount Pleasant, and my comments are addressed to you as one of your employers in the great state of Wisconsin, and they're addressed to you and all members of Congress. I want Congress to start fulfilling its duties and responsibilities as laid out in the Constitution and federal laws. You need to start fulfilling your power of the purse. Ensure that funds that Congress has already appropriated are being spent. Ensure that the closure of any federal agency or department created by Congress is done according to the laws addressing that process. That is not happening so far. Write and pass laws that serve the American people rather than relying on executive actions of the executive branch, and ensure that generally accepted accounting principles and standards are adhered to by all agencies and departments created by Congress. And I want to know why DOGE isn't doing the same. And because Congress, in my opinion, is failing as a job, I respectfully request that all members of Congress relinquish 50% of their salaries and benefits and give it to pay down that debt. Thank you. I look forward to a written response from you.
We're taking back our country.
My name is Patsy Klein, not the dead one. I live in Kenosha. And I'd first like to say to the representative that my father was in the 101st Airplane in World War II. He was in the gliders, and he was a radio operator, and he helped to hold the city of Bastogne from the Germans. My last husband, Larry Klein, was in Vietnam with the MPs, and he suffered and left from Agent Orange and is now in memory care. And if it wasn't for the benefits of the VA, I don't know where these families would be. So cutting veterans from their jobs in Washington and cutting into the VA, which provides benefits for those who have served and protect us, is an act of cowardice. And if you were in the military, you would be drummed out. So stop acting like a coward when it comes to serving and protecting the people you've sworn to represent.
Representative Steil, my name is Bill Guida. You met me when I was a reporter for the Kenosha News. I've been long retired now. I couldn't have retired if I didn't have VA benefits. That's my health care these days. You hadn't served in the military. I don't know if you had any national service prior to running for Congress and being elected. It's appropriate that you are represented here by an empty suit because you've been pretty much an empty suit. Not just these days. I heard a gentleman say that you were kind in listening to his rants. You're a trained attorney. You're trained to listen to rants and then to dismiss them when they come from your client's opponents. Except we're your clients now. All the people of the 1st District. Not just the ones who wear red softball caps with MAGA on them. You are to represent all of us. Veterans, non-veterans. Seniors, the young, workers, the retired, disabled, abled. That's your job. Your job isn't to be an empty suit, although you fill an empty suit very well. You need to show some cojones. You have not done that. I don't know if you're capable of doing that. You claimed when you ran for office that you had a background in manufacturing. No, the people here have backgrounds in manufacturing. They worked at American Motors, American Brass. They had backgrounds in manufacturing. You were an attorney representing manufacturers. And what do attorneys do who represent manufacturers? They protect manufacturers from liability claims, from labor unions. Got news for you, Bryan. We see right through you. You have no clothes other than an empty suit.
Okay, I'm going to be brief here. My name is John Slacks, and I live in Kenosha. 3 weeks ago on Monday, I called Bryan Steil and I asked him one question, or asked his representative one question. I said, who started the Ukraine Russian war. I want to know from Bryan Steil. Well, we'll get back to you. I said, I don't want a form letter. I don't want your whatever. I want to know from him who started the war. Thursday I called him again, and I said, I still haven't heard from you. Well, it takes a while to get that. Well, it's 3 weeks later. It's 3 weeks later now, and I haven't heard. And then I said, okay, I got a question for you. Okay, you're on the phone. Who started the Ukraine war? Oh, I can't answer that. That's inappropriate for me to do that. So what I'm doing now is maybe he will hear this and he will respond to me and tell me exactly who started the war.
If you're just coming in, there's some seats up front. Please make yourselves comfortable. And you can just stand up in line right up here.
Hi, Mr. Stiles. My name is Jana Francine. I'm from Summers. So I posted something online, but I'd like to read it for you. I think you might find it interesting. Our country is in an emergency, an experience of an emergency of massive proportions. This is like Nazi Germany on steroids. Millions and millions of American lives are being decimated by the capricious cuts to our federal agencies. The SSA is now in the process of being gutted. Let's put a visual on this. Imagine the vulnerable. Let's picture this. Imagine the vulnerable, the weak, the infirm, the poor, and those needing wheelchairs, canes, walkers, and stretchers being herded onto train cars. The trains, many, many trains, are leaving the station and arriving at their destination. The train cars are unloaded, and the vulnerable passengers are herded toward today's version of death chambers: starvation, exposure to the elements due to lack of shelter, and succumbing to disease due to lack of health care. Imagine that your grandmother is on that train. Step forward for us. In the name of humanity, put a stop to this.
Our names are Leah and John Schaub. And Mr. Steil, I think you're following your friend Paul Ryan. Not showing up, even with the same haircut. Medicaid is a right to life issue. It's a civil rights issue, and it's a political issue. I felt so unsettled and angry, Mr. Stiles, that you went to Matthias Academy for your photo ops during the day, with only a vote against those same disabled people later that night, against Medicaid. I speak here tonight, standing in the gap for our 28-year-old autistic son, who has a beautiful life and a cost-effective life. Institutions are more expensive than the IRIS Medicaid program. And from the last person that shared, that train is leaving. And institutions are part of that train. Thank you.
Since I'm an old guy, I remember the wonderful thing that LBJ did when he created Medicaid. And my father told me when I grew up, if we don't pay our bills and save our money, we'll end up in the county poorhouse. Every county had a poorhouse before Medicaid came along. And as a legislator, we have to do the state budget. So we're waiting to see how much money that we get for Medicaid. See, our budget is about $100 billion for the state. A third of that comes from the federal government. And I thought about that because one of my listening sessions a couple months ago, first person in the door was a middle-aged woman pushing a wheelchair with her severely disabled daughter in it. Daughter's name was Maya. She said, please, we moved from Texas to Wisconsin for Medicaid. I don't know what we do if there are cuts. And you have to remember how Medicaid is spent. 60% of Medicaid goes for people in nursing homes who can't afford $100,000 a year. I think Brookside is about $450 a day. Okay? 60% goes for nursing homes. Half of Brookside are on Medicaid. Next chunk goes for people with severe disabilities, like that girl in the wheelchair. Then you look around town, the crisis center on 60th Street, big chunk Medicaid there. The clubhouse downtown, I don't know what Kafasi gets. The very backbone of our safety net in this country, in Kenosha, is financed by Medicaid. So Bryan, remember that. Those are our most vulnerable citizens. Forget about Elon and take care of the people that need help.
Hi, my name is Kathy Galligan. I live in Twin Lakes, Wisconsin. I'm a nurse and a CPA, as a matter of fact, and I can't tell you what damage cuts to Medicaid and Medicare will do to this country, not to mention USAID. There's already talk about TB taking over in Africa, and if TB takes over, we are all in trouble, all of us. It's an airborne disease. It's just incredible that you have no understanding of this, Representative Steil. You're cutting off your nose to spite your face. We have to keep up paying for people because, as we noticed in the AIDS, in the epidemic that we just had in COVID, this isn't, oh, we just ignore those people. This is everybody, and we're all in it together. Thank you.
From Salem, and I thought I'd talk to the empty suit, whether he's here or not, he's an empty suit. But I was going to talk about the environmental rollbacks, but Joe Bannerman's already did that. He did a good job. So I'm not going to go into that too much, although I am extremely disappointed about the rollbacks that Lee Zedlin and Musker are doing. I mean, they're not even pretending to be doing their job. All those things from dismantling regulations on coal-fired power plants and safeguards from protecting us from mercury and toxic chemicals. All that's going to be on the chopping block. 65% of the EPA staff. It's all really sad. I wish Joe had talked more about the EVs, because that's also another thing that's close to my heart. I was really excited that we got a plan in Wisconsin and changed the law so that charging stations could be put every 50 miles apart on the interstate, so that people that came to our state that drive those cars could charge. And, you know, it's a new up and coming industry, and it needs a bump from the federal government, and we got it, and it's illegally being impounded. So. But the one thing I do want to say is that, you know, Trump and Musk are acting illegally, and Bryan Steil is not saying anything about that. Like, it's just okay with all these illegal impoundments and illegal things that they're doing, and, you know, leaving it to the courts, but then they just started ignoring him. And, you know, we hear a lot about the cuts to the VA and Medicare and Social Security, and those are, you know, they're nickel and diming all these cuts to these federal agencies, and I have a friend who works for the VA, and what they go through every day is just morally degrading. But Elon Musk has billions of dollars in contracts to the U.S. government. I think I heard $3 billion a day in government contracts. But we're not hearing about any cuts to those. You know, why aren't they cutting those? So, you know, I want to see Bryan Steil standing up for us a little bit more, a lot more, and stopping this nonsense.
I'm going to take a second go around here because Bob Wirtz, Senator Bob Wirtz, State Senator Bob Wirtz, inspired me. And I want to tell Bryan Steil, if you want to be a career politician, which you apparently do, take a page, take the book from this man right here, State Senator Bob Wirtz. Bob Wirtz goes door to door and talks to voters. He looks them in the eye. He lets them look him in the eye. Grow a pair.
Family show.
Bob Wirtz, this isn't a family. Hey, the whole family's at risk, and Steil knows it and doesn't care because his family isn't at risk.
Yeah.
Our families are. We never had to go to Bob Wirtz, hat in hand, and beg him to do the right thing. He bucked his party. He bucked fellow Democrats when he felt the courage of his convictions to do what was right. I haven't seen you even show any convictions of your own. All I've seen you do is toe the dictated party line. No more so than in these days and these times when dictators are dictating the party line to you. Take a page from State Senator Bob Wirtz. Grow a pair.
Hello, County Representative. This is normal. You hear from me multiple ways every week, and I'm sharing something with you that I've shared with you about so many different things on so many different issues. What my government is doing is causing undue harm and suffering to my fellow human beings, Americans and other people in other countries. And this undue suffering and harm is going to result in the untimely death of some of these people. Some of them will be Americans, some of them will not be Americans, but they're all my fellow human beings. And I view you as having blood on your hands, your head, your soul, and as an American citizen, I'm telling you again, I am not going to be complicit in murder, and Judgment Day will reach all of you who are engaging in murder.
Yes, it's Marge Krupp again, Mr. Steil. Ronald Reagan is rolling over in his grave right now for your support of Russia. Right? And by the way, Richard Nixon signed EPA into law, just for the record. And you're just destroying what others have built.
Johnson from Kenosha. I decided I didn't care if I was going to be eloquent or not. I had to say what I had to say. So I see that every day something new attacks my heart. That you are being a coward about taking a position for all of us, your constituents. Today was like the biggest dagger. I'm a retired teacher, a grandparent of school-aged children, and in fact, I'm a retired special education teacher. I started my career just as legislation was coming into the school system that protected really the civil rights of all children. The IDEA 94-142, way back then. And to think that, I think you hide behind the idea that everybody voted. Trump said that he was going to dismantle the Office of Education, the Department of Education. But truthfully, people just thought their egg prices were going to go down. They didn't really understand that a person who lies all the time really was going to do the things that he was saying he was going to do. And so now, here we are. To me, education is that which sort of levels for all of us, the poor, the rich, and to think that we're going to take away the Department of Education, that we're going to not support our communities. We have Title I in our schools. We need that. Our kids need that opportunity. People with disabilities, they need the education too. And states can't do it alone. We have depended on the federal government. And to think that you're taking that away, it's just beyond my belief. Do what you need to do, please.
Brother Bryan, here's what I have to say to you. And I call you brother because I believe each person is a beloved child of God, which means each one of us is siblings. But dear brother, you are failing to treat us neighbors of yours as your siblings. The tax plan that you put the blueprint forward for is an absolute abomination against your neighbors. You put forward a tax plan that wants to take $200 billion of SNAP benefits from the most vulnerable people in our community. The church I serve at, as pastor, has the second biggest food pantry in Kenosha County. One of the three legs of the stool of food for those struggling with food insecurity is SNAP benefits. And you want to take that from people. And why are you doing that? Because you want to give a big tax cut to billionaires. What an absolute abomination. Medicaid benefits. So many of our guests at our pantry depend and get their health care from that, including so many children that come through, they get Badger Care. And you voted to take $880 billion, again, from our most vulnerable people here in Wisconsin, across the country. And again, why did you do that? You did it to give a big tax break to billionaires. As has been mentioned, we have a large community at our church. We have the great privilege of having both adults with and without significant developmental disabilities get together every Monday, the first Monday of the month. And we have gotten to know so many of our beloved siblings with significant disabilities, and yet their lives are so much blessed and empowered by Medicaid. Again, something that you are trying to cut to give a big tax cut to billionaires. What an absolute abomination. And last, I'll lift this up. You are also voting for a tax blueprint that wants to take billions of dollars away from the Inflation Reduction Act, a true miracle that is setting up, protecting all of our children and grandchildren's future. Just this week, the World Meteorological Organization put out a study saying, again, how dire the climate emergency is. It has never happened that the 10 hottest years on record are sequentially the last 10 years, and that is where we're at. And you want to defund this Inflation Reduction Act miracle. Again, you want to defund our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren's future because you want to give a huge tax cut to billionaires. Again, this is an absolute abomination. And so, Brother Bryan, you claim to be a Christian Catholic. You claim a common faith with me, that you believe that Jesus told us we are to love our neighbors as ourselves. And yet, by your action, you have proven that you are an apostate. You've proven by your actions that you do not believe in neighborly love and you do not believe in Jesus. And yet, I believe, as always, anybody can wake up and make huge changes. We know that this terrible reconciliation bill will be making its way through the Congress in the months to come. And any given morning, you could wake up and you could be the deciding vote that puts neighborly love in front and ends this absolute abomination. Please, Brother Steil, please act on behalf of your neighbors.
Hi, Representative Steil. You might remember me, but I'm sure you remember my daughter. We had the opportunity to meet with you at your DC office last June with the Children's Hospital Association. Kids from all over the country came to meet with their elected representatives, and she was the cute little 4-year-old that came to your office with purple glasses, has Down syndrome. And we talked to you about supporting Medicaid for kids. And I would like to know now why tax cuts to billionaires are more important than my daughter having health care. I'd also like to know why tax cuts to billionaires are more important than her education. I lie awake at night now wondering if the IEP that we're about to do next week is going to matter. If she's in 4K now, she's got a long school time ahead of her, and she loves going to school. She's capable, she's worthy, and I want to know why that doesn't matter. And my biggest question is, why won't you come answer these questions? Look me in the eyes and answer these questions.
I lived in Kenosha most of my life. I'm going to withhold my name. First off, I'd like to thank Bob Wirch. When I needed Patrick here years ago, I was between jobs, no fault of mine. And I called your office. It took me months to get on it. It was a nightmare. I had no insurance for me or for my kids. Your office helped me get through that. Thank you. I'm tired of all the mega Trump lies. I'm tired of all the mega Trump bullshit. I'm tired of all mega truck bullying, and I'm not gonna roll over and take it from you people. I don't care what happens.
Okay, 3 is the charm. Pastor Barker inspired me about Jesus' teaching to all of us. He said, welcome the refugee, feed the hungry, clothe the naked. And in Matthew, he said, what you do to the least among you, you do unto me. So you're going to pay for that when you get to the pearly gates.
Hello, I'm Richard Kaufman. I have been active in the community for many, many years. But I'm going blind and I'm struggling with cancer. So I thought it's time to retire and let others be more active. And I'm impressed by the people who have come with energy, information, and being very articulate. What I have to say is, your time is up. An old man like me is going to come out of retirement to help as much as I can to put you out of a job.
Congressman Steil, you know Wisconsin is the dairy state. We have a lot of small dairy farms around the state in northern Minnesota. 80% of the workers are undocumented immigrants. I remember seeing a documentary a few years ago. They took the camera out in the barn in the middle of February, and this one poor immigrant was shoveling manure in the middle of February. And he looked at the camera and he smiled and he said, I haven't seen anyone from town coming out here looking for a job. And you have to remember, some of my relatives were farmers. Dairy farmers, they milk the cows either twice a day or 3 times a day, 7 days a week. These are hard-working people that send most of the money back to Mexico for their families. They're good family people. So I would say this to Representative. Cut the garbage about demonizing immigrants. And remember, a lot of them are hard-working members of our economy, and they just want to support their families.
Hi, this is Russ Hahn again. One quick thing, since I see a few people heading out. I know the only time you're coming into Kenosha, Representative Steil, is to campaign, of course, for Republican candidates, especially Brad Schimmel. I know you think that with Elon Musk's money, you can get Brad Schimmel elected. Well, I want to tell you something. I think every person in this room, with the energy in this room, I think every person in this room is... I think every person in this room is going to vote for Susan Crawford. I think every person in this room is going to talk to 5 or 10 people of their friends or acquaintances in this state and get them to vote for Susan Crawford. And I think a lot of the people in this room are going to make phone calls, recruit more volunteers, talk to voters, knock on doors, and ensure that Susan Crawford gets elected on April 1st. And when we're done with that, I think a lot of the people in this room are going to fight for the vulnerable, are going to fight for immigrants, are going to fight for people of color, are going to fight for the transgender and lesbian and gay community, which has been so horribly attacked by you and your Republican colleagues over the past several months. And I think when we're done in April 1st, we're going to go out there and we're going to march. And we're going to boycott and we're going to do everything we can to protect our democracy.
I'll hand deliver them.
Congressman Steil, I just want you to know that right now they want to cut everything up in Washington, and I don't know where that's all coming from other than to say that they have to balance the budget. The Republicans now are so worried about that. Well, when the org chair buffoon was in office for 4 years, he ran the deficit up $8 trillion. Okay? And I think right now the deficit stands at about 32 trillion. So that's 25% in 4 years. And I think he's on the way to do it again. And you only care about the deficit when you're not in power. People in Congress voted for that. Every increase he wanted in those 4 years he was in, there was never a question about it. But when somebody else comes into office, a Democrat, oh, the deficit, we're so worried about it. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're totally off balance there. And also, I believe in the state, Senator, there's about roughly 6 million people in Wisconsin. 1.25 million people are on Medicaid. If you cut that, where are they going to go? What's going to happen to those people? And if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, half the money for Medicaid comes from the state and half from the government. Is that not correct? And we have 13 states in America that collect more money from the government than they pay in. You can look this up. 13 of them, and they're red states, except for New Mexico, which sometimes votes Democratic. Sometimes. You have totally, and they depend more on Medicaid than the blue states. That's right. So I don't know what's going to happen to those people also. But everybody counts or nobody counts. And it makes no sense to me what you're doing in Washington, letting a person who's not even an American citizen run rampant through everything, taking our personal information, and he's got control of it all. And it just is totally asinine. And another thing, years ago, our forefathers expected somebody to go to Capitol Hill, do their job for 4 years, say, goodbye, boys, I'm going back to my plantation or I'm going somewhere else. We were bigots. You had to be white, you had to be male, you had to be a landowner. But still, it was a public service. They never intended for anybody to go to Washington and spend their life there. And that's what people are doing. And Warren Buffett said it best. If you want to straighten out Social Security, Medicaid, put the senators and the congressmen in that. They have their own health care program, they got their own pension program. He said, I guarantee if you put them in Social Security, it would never go broke. They'd find a way to keep that thing funded. And please do your job there. And as the one gentleman said, grow a pair, because I cannot believe what has totally happened to the Republican Party. It is just, it's a sad thing. And I just can't vote for them anymore.
Yeah, my name is Dan Krupp from Pleasant Prairie, and about a month ago, I wrote a letter to Representative Steil, and I was expressing my concern about our Constitution not being violated, many numerous times. And I received one of his dandy form letters, and reassured me that as soon as there was something that Trump did that was unquestionable regarding the Constitution, he would take some action. And it's more than funny. But anyway, I haven't heard back, surprise, other than the letter. So I'm going to be writing again. But I can see our whole system of government going to age here. And I'm very, very concerned every day. It affects my family. I know a young man who has a disability. I'm worried about the Medicaid for him. He's in a group home. What's going to happen? Wow, I could go on, but that's all right. But I hope that you grow a spine to grow with your peer.
My name is Kathy Galligan again. I just wanted to say, Nazi Germany didn't start by building crematoriums. And that's where we are.
Hi, Representative Stiles. I'm John Hoxton of Kenosha. Today on Facebook, I think it was Facebook today, he posted, Robert Reich, the former Secretary of Labor under President Clinton, posted an article about all of the students and the travel to and from the United States. He's telling people that are from outside of the United States not to come because their rights and their security may not be what it was 5 years ago. And he cited a number of cases where people were being, one case was a prominent surgeon, kidney surgeon, that went home to Lebanon, and she's on a the special visa, work visa, and she was intercepted at Logan Airport and deported back to Paris, hopefully going back to Lebanon. And she was a noted kidney surgeon with specialty in kidneys, kidney cancer, kidney care. And what Rice's article was, is he's telling people that are thinking about coming to the United States under student visas and travelers to the United States not to come. And consider the ones that are here, consider leaving because their security may just end up someplace else. And this was today, Robert Reich, I saw it on a Facebook post, he's on Substack, he's on any number of blog posts, but Substack is the one I saw it today on Facebook. And I just was looking for it, I couldn't find it. This is the former Secretary of Labor, under President Clinton, who's telling people not to come to the United States. He's trying to set up a boycott because and make it hurt. And supposedly Canadians, their bike week, which was in Daytona, is down like 20% this last couple of weeks it was held. I don't remember when it was. And that's part of that. The other thing that I want to bring up, in my one item, if you want to put it that way, is the current Secretary President RFK Jr., supposed Secretary of Health and Human Services, I guess that's what it's called, wants to cut out fluoridation of your water in the city water in Kenosha. Granted, I'm in Kenosha, I live in the city of Kenosha, and Kenosha, for people who don't know, Kenosha, the city of Kenosha, has probably the cleanest water in the world. In the early 90s, when they were in the design process for this is my background in utilities and that, is when they were in the process of designing the new water plant that's down there. Milwaukee had the cryptosporidium scare. And they says, they tore the sheet of paper off and they says, we're gonna look at this a little bit differently. And looked into what's called microfiltration, which is a carbon block that you can put from like the pure filter in that on your kitchen faucet. So the water that we're getting out of the Kenosha water plant is probably the cleanest, cleaner than bottled water. And fluoridated. The fluoridation has been a problem with some of the political in the political spectrum because they think that our government is trying to poison us. Thank you. The issue is I'm going to be talking to this up in front of the city council and trying to remind them that they need to keep up the fluoridation of water, no matter what people say that it's a bad chemical. In the rates that they're adding it to the drinking water, it's definitely not a problem. There are areas in the well water in the county where you can get the staining, which is how they found that fluoridation helps. Staining on the teeth, it's higher than what it should be, and the people that have those wells should have their water tested. It's wells only, not the lake water. They should have their water tested to see if their fluoridation levels are too high. And that's part of the geology of our area. Thank you.
Carol, you can be our last speaker. Unless there's anybody else. And I would say that.
Hello, it's Carol again. I would ask you, not in my name. Americans stand with Ukraine. Americans stand for your decency and kindness, even if my present administration does not.
Sorry, Bryan Steil, it's Gwen Furman back again. I just wanted to elaborate on what the gentleman said about, people traveling to the United States. It's not just, the kidney doctor. There was a Canadian woman who was held for a full month. There are German tourists still being held. We tortured a German green card holder who's married to a United States citizen at LaGuardia Airport. Not a single Republican, including Bryan Steil, has said anything about the human rights abuses we're committing. And we all know that a lot of these MAGA Republicans, they're racist and they love to torture brown people. But they're not even speaking out when it's being done to European and Canadian visitors, white people. That means no one is safe. And I also want to speak about someone that I grew up with. I've lived in District 1 most of my life. I lived in Oak Creek, and that's where I went to high school. And for those of you that might not know, Oak Creek and South Milwaukee are the two areas in Wisconsin with some of the highest Hmong population in the state. Most of my classmates in my graduating class of 2006 were Hmong. And one of them, Ma Yang, was stolen from her husband and 5 children 10 days ago now, I think. For those of you who don't know, the Hmong people were brought here by our government after the Vietnam War because they fought on our side, and when we lost, their home was no longer safe. Her parents are veterans, and she's been here since she was 8 months old. And now she's in a safe house in Laos where she doesn't speak the language and hasn't been allowed access to her phone or her paperwork. You can read about this in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, everyone please do. I'm glad that Senator Wirtz is here today. Maybe you could take this back to the state legislature. We need to protect our immigrant community. It's not just our Latino community, it is also the Hmong community, and we owe them. Woo!
I just want to say, so many of you were brave tonight. You showed up and you spoke, And some of you haven't done this ever before. I just want you to know that we appreciate it, and I think it's important for us to realize that we are now the guardrails of our society. We, the people, need to stand together. We need to find the things that we have in common because we need to stand up. And you started doing that tonight. Some of you have been doing it for a long time. I just wanted to thank you. And I wanted to address just one more topic. Our history is disappearing in the middle of the night. My daughter is a almost 22-year-old STEM student at UW-Madison. Her idols are being taken down from sites. Tuskegee Airmen are being, right, at Arlington National Cemetery. You can dig and find things, but you really have to look. I think we need to be aware that our history is at stake, and that's what makes us rich, who we are. The DEI that's being attacked, that beautiful diversity that we hold dear in our country, we need to protect that too. Yeah. So thank you for coming tonight. I just want to say, Russ, you did a great job wrapping up exactly what I was going to say, but he did it way better. I just want to say, please, find that one thing and just do it. Don't get yourself burnt out. Don't let your mental health go, but find one thing that you want to fight for, and then fight like hell for it, and know that we're all here cheering for you. If you wrote out a postcard, please give it to Sheila. What we would like to do before they get turned in is look through them, because we'd like to highlight some of them on our website by taking the names off, if that's okay. But then she will take them all to Bryan Steil.
I was going to group them in piles and give them with a bow to him.
That's beautiful. I love that idea. And if you're interested, every first Thursday of the month, the Democratic Party of Kenosha County meets here at 7 o'clock. All are welcome. We have updates from our wonderful legislators and ways to work together. Thank you. Good night.
Oh my God.